Welcome our visitors. There is no one here in chamber yet, probably at home like some of our aldermen are, and those that are online like our aldermen. I now call to order the February 17, 2022 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Becker.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
here.
Alderman Osage. Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Becker. Alderman Schuman.
Here.
Mayor Albery.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum, and we will move on. Our first item of business is always communications from the mayor, and I have nothing this evening. Next item is citizens communication. This is time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing, and there are no public hearings on tonight's agenda. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor and board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting dates, which are the first and third Thursdays of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens communication section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and Board of Aldermen welcome and value input and feedback from the public. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to address the board? If not, we will move on. Our first item of business is the approval of the consent agenda. If the board desires, a consent agenda may be approved by a single motion. Tonight's agenda consists of the minutes of the February 3rd, 2022 regular Board of Aldermen meeting and the February 17th, 2022 bills list. Are there any questions, comments, or proposed revisions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Second.
Alderman Ross, Alderman Rucker, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We move on to unfinished business, and for the record, there is no unfinished business on tonight's agenda. Under new business, our first item requests a first reading of Bill 2105, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending the Code of Ordinance by repealing Chapter 250 entitled Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, consisting of Section 250.010 through 250.090. Because the City of Osage Beach, Missouri's prescription drug monitoring program has been made redundant by the establishment of a statewide program with the adoption of Senate Bill 63. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Several years ago during the opioid epidemic, the city adopted a prescription drug monitoring program. The state government had not been able to agree on legislation to do so on a statewide basis. There were opportunities for various municipalities and counties to participate through a program organized by St. Louis County's Health Department. Finally, Senate Bill 63 was adopted, and there is now a statewide Missouri prescription drug monitoring program. So our ordinances are in fact redundant and not necessary. Alderman Rucker should get credit for following this issue and realizing that we did not need this part of our ordinances and that we should clean up our city code by taking out what we don't need.
All right, thank you. Do we have to cancel anything with St.
No, sir.
Louis, who we?
It's
No,
been
sir.
expired. We let it
We
expire.
let it expire? Okay. All right, are there any other questions from the board or comments? Yes, Alderman Becker.
So do we have the option to opt into this state program, or we just automatically have to participate?
We don't participate as such, Alderman Becker. The providers participate directly. The city no longer has a role in prescription drug monitoring at any level under Senate Bill 63, as I understand it.
Okay, thank you.
You may remember, Alderman Becker, this was something that, as the city attorney referenced, a program that was being addressed by not everyone throughout the state. And we were given the option to participate, and our participation was based on us providing some funds for the organization out of St. Louis, to include our physicians or prescribers in that database process. And that's basically, what it was, correct?
Yeah, almost, but there was a grant available which paid our costs for the 2 years we were part of that program.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't end up having to expend any funds because of the grant. And I was the administrator, which it was just one of those things on the roll. But my only role was if they had issues with the providers in our city, then that's where my role would have been enacted. But I never heard nothing, yeah. Our role was really enforcement should there have been an issue, and now the state just takes care of that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If none, is there a motion to approve the first reading?
Motion to approve.
Motion to
All right.
approve first reading.
Alderman
Second.
Schuman, and I believe that was Alderman Rucker as second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The first reading passes. Our final item this evening, request a motion to approve the purchase of 2 zero-turn lawnmowers from Motor Hut for an amount not to exceed $26,336. Our Parks and Recreations manager is not here this evening, so I'm going to guess that the city administrator will take this.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. So Nicole put out bids out in January, early January, opened them a few weeks ago for an item that was budgeted. She's recommending the one that's a little different price than the lower one, but that's because of options, locality, customer service. I think she listed that. Again, this is a budgeted item under budget. I do not know the timeline of when it will be in. That's probably something I should have asked. The quote's good for 30 days. She did put that there's no deadline. However, the quote is only good for 30 days and while supplies last. So that's why we are getting this on and get it ordered ASAP.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
So moved.
Alderman Morose.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. We move on to communications. We start with communications from members of the board. Alderman Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to recognize Ron White and Lloyd Dunham. I was up here at City Hall this afternoon about 3 o'clock, and they were out shoveling snow in some pretty nasty weather. And along with our police force and our street departments and probably ambulance. Hopefully they are not going out, but if they do go out.
I had to a couple times.
Have they really? For being out there. So thank you all. Secondly, just to get to the point, the HVAC and hot water heater inspection permit process that was introduced the 1st of January. There's been a lot of feedback on Facebook and so forth. I think we need to look at how we can improve or do some things better to help that process be more seamless and at the end of the day help alleviate some of the concerns that we've seen on social media. I put the, I sent, for those of you, I sent to, not here, there was an email you may or may not have seen. And I can go through these, but at the end of the day, I'll try to hit the highlights. I think there's an opportunity for us to figure out how to become a resource for our community through our inspectors versus a perceived, that I believe in many cases is that we're enforcers and we're just trying to be big brother. And I think one way to demonstrate that is that we eliminate this permit inspection fee, not the inspections, the fee, for at least 1 year. I'm not, at the end of the day, I think that should be discussed, okay? And I don't know that tonight's the best time when there's very few people here and so forth, but I'd just like to get it out there, and then we can figure out how we might consider this and or get an answer back of what staff's thoughts are on this. I think there's an opportunity here to reach out to the community again, especially the contractors and anyone that's interested of what we're trying to accomplish. At the end of the day, we're trying to make sure that hot water heaters and HVAC systems that are replaced, we normally inspect them at new, but we've instituted a process to ensure that the replacements are done in a safe manner to code. And that's not something that we've done in the past. This is new, even though probably the code might have suggested we do that, we haven't taken that, and we did, with staffing or whatever reasons, we started doing this, and I think that there's for lack of a better term, there's a lot of misinformation and bad perceptions about what we're trying to accomplish, and I think that would go a long way to some type of outreach process to educate and inform people why this is important and what we're trying to accomplish. Ron and I talked earlier today, there's still a couple of things. One thing, and that is the process for the replacement of an entire system versus components. I think he understood a little bit how it could be perceived. Some things were listed, but the other major components weren't. That would just help clarify. And then any other clarifications that you might come across, Ron, that might be necessary based on feedback you're getting. And then once we get that lined up the best we can at this point, we go ahead and mail hard copies out of the FAQs that were posted on Facebook today. So I don't know if the board has any questions. I know that it's remote and so forth, but I'd be glad to talk more about it now or at some other point in time if they had questions. And that's all I have.
All right, comments, Alderman Rucker?
Yeah, I just want to say that I would like for us not to take some action tonight, but I do agree with Alderman Ross. One of the reasons I would like to not take action tonight is I sent Ron White an email with a number of questions that I want to get answered to before I am ready to move forward with how we proceed. There's just some things within the code that I'm not 100% sure on that I want to get clarified on before I would want to make some of my suggestions. I am not opposed to, if we want to, on a very quick note basis, do like we had similarly did once before, and that is allow from today. I think the proper word is a moratorium on the permit of replacements, that we do that for a couple months, 30, 60 days to give us an opportunity to step back since we've seen this situation and regroup and then come back forward with it. Those are my thoughts.
Alderman Ross, do you have a response?
Well, I completely agree with Kevin that we all need to better understand this. It is a new process, and not only ourselves, but as well as the community that we're serving. So I had no intention of taking action. To be quite honest, I wanted to demonstrate to the public, for whoever are viewing or want to come back and look at it, that the board at least, or at least myself, has some concerns that we can improve and are suggesting some things so that we can be responsive to the community. But yet at the same time figure out how to make sure that we have hot water heaters that are safe, and air conditioners. Ron has told me, without getting into it too deep, that there's been some very unique situations that have been seen out in the field, either by contractors or our inspectors, that made us very uncomfortable about what exists out in our community.
As far as a recommendation, what I'd like to do, if we possibly can, is to, have the board request staff to specifically address certain items. Alderman Rucker, if you want to have these conversations with Ron White, and then, provide some information, to him prior to the next meeting, if we're able to, within the next 2 weeks, to bring something back to the board with, as a recommendation, or at that point, we can set it up for further discussion at that point. If we don't have enough information, to make any decision, or to have staff make a recommendation to the board at that time. Does that make sense?
I think staff should look at it, I think the board should look at it further too. And,
Okay.
And I think that, I just want to make sure that we're signposting that we're still working this and there's still work to be done.
Okay. Well, let's do this. If you've got some,
Mayor?
just a second, and then I'll recognize you, Alderman Rucker. If there are issues that specific aldermen have on this and want to get with Ron direct to get the process started, and we'll see, kind of where we are. We can do one or two things if we have enough information. We could ask Ron to bring something to the board if he's ready at that time. If he's not, then to set this up as a discussion item on the next board meeting, get further clarification, because there will be a need to modify the existing ordinances with any changes. Alderman Rucker, you had a question.
I just had a comment, and that is that I agree with the process you're discussing and everything, and I wanted to re-clarify. I have already started my process. I've already sent Ron about 8 or 10 questions to help clarify some things. So I think I just sent it just directly to him, and obviously haven't gotten a response back from him yet. But we definitely need to rethink it and look at it and further along. And I concur with what your recommendation is.
Okay. Well, you're one step up on maybe some of the other aldermen, so we will leave that as far as additional work possibly from the other aldermen. If they have any questions, recommendations, comments, to within the next 2 weeks, get with Ron, and we will see where we are, and then we'll decide how we will address that as an agenda item, either through a discussion or possible changes. My guess is it would probably be better to have it more as a discussion item to get further clarification, and then make any recommended changes that the board wants staffs to formally put together and bring back to the board. Is that fair enough? Okay, I see some heads nodding and whatever. Okay, and
Yes.
Also for some of those who may be listening this evening, I don't know if you all know, but I think Richard did indicate that that Ron had put together a fax sheet, some Q&As on some of the questions that he's received, and the answers that he has shared, and this may help clarify some of this, in the community for some of those who might have some questions. Okay, it's on our webpage, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Alderman Ross?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Morose.
Again, yes, there's been a lot of confusion on social media that I have been well aware of, and many of us have been. And I know several of us have been inundated with phone calls and texts and whatever, and even Ron. But I appreciate Alderman Ross in proceeding with this recommendations. I totally agree that we need to have more clarification. I did in turn meet with Ron White and discuss this item with him. It is confusing to some degree, but then again, there's some discrepancies and address, which we are right now. And I like the fact that we are going to be discussing and clarifying modifying it. This is only what we should be doing for representing our citizens in our community. Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Alderman Becker.
I think he is gone.
Okay, it looks like Alderman Becker may have dropped off. Alderman Schuman.
I have nothing.
All right, Alderman Rucker.
Yes, I have a couple items. One is, Gina, can you tell us where we're at with the 2022 budget booklet?
Yes, I can. Hope to have that done next week, by the end of next week, the full document. I was hoping you guys would have your group picture tonight because I was thinking if we were that close, I'd put a new updated board. So with that, I'm going to change that sheet around. But I've got everything compiled. I will have for sure the electronic version. I am going to print some hard copies. So if those of you want a hard copy, I'll be reaching out or let me know. But the electronic version will be put together and sent out next week.
I think the other question I have is, with us having our engineering services done by Cochrane, what is the process that is in place so that we have all the documentation from the architects and all that stuff that we usually do in-house? When does that come back in-house? When do we have that where we store it at our facility, such as right-of-ways and all that stuff that the architect is dealing with? At what stage is that, or is it in-house now?
Well, it is a combination right now because as our engineers, obviously they are storing their work they're doing for us on their servers. Now, we pass back and forth a lot of information, so I'm not going to say that we don't have any of that stored, but we do have access to the data. I will double check with Dave to see like really what they've nailed down as like a weekly or monthly process. I know that we share data. We are partnering a lot more electronically. For example, Kevin's doing a lot with GIS, so therefore we're going to put a lot more stuff as we get more in depth enhancing our GIS. They've helped us with electronic like mapping and things, and we have software platforms and I guess I'm not finding my word, but login access, I guess. So there are some cloud functions that both parties have. So I know that's probably not the complete answer, and I'll get back to you on that, but I know that we do have access to that because there are stuff. It's just like, and we have to, because some things that are sunshine requestable, we have to be able to have access to that too, so.
Right. Well, and my biggest concern is the fact that if at some point in time we separate from Cochrane, I would like to have, I would like for us to have had a lot of the data, a lot of the information already in place, not to where all of a sudden, boom, they've got this massive multi-year stuff. That's my concern. It's our business, and we need to make sure, especially with Sunshine, that we have it available and have access to it on premise. And I don't know how much we can have access off premise at their location, and if that satisfies the Sunshine law. That's my concern. So okay. I'll leave that with, I see Tara shaking her head and she's listening in on that. So I'm sure between, she'll make sure we've got our I's dotted and our T's crossed. So thank you, and everybody stay safe, and hopefully that warm weather tomorrow will melt this all away.
One question, I guess, that based on, your conversations or your comments, Alderman Rucker, is probably the majority of what, is needed today is probably found and stored online as opposed to, being printed and kept, in a location. But if there is any of that does take place, we will see where we are on that, because that may be more of an issue as far as the availability of the databases. And since it is our property, retaining it, should we go back to our own engineering services, that should not be any issue whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we probably may even have copies of it right now anyway. All right, anything else, Alderman Rucker?
No, thank you. I'm good.
All right, City Administrator?
A couple updates. I know I've bombarded you again with some emails. Couple highlights, though. Next month, there's 2 different things going on. If you are interested in the Missouri Division of Tourism Roadshow, I know I sent you an email, just a friendly reminder. I know 3 of us are already signed up, but if you are interested, let me know so time doesn't get away from me and I miss a deadline. The Next Site program that we are participating with LORDAC, that we signed an individual contract for the city of Osage Beach. Charles is going to be presenting update to the stakeholders and where we're at our next LORDAC meeting, which is the 3rd Thursday in March. I'll have more details on the lineup because he's also going to make community meetings and with other stakeholders, like with realtors and banks and things like that too. So I'll get you more details on that, but that will be a nice update on where we are as a region with the Next Site resource and as far as the city and what kind of data we're getting, and that'll be a good update. I apologize, I don't have any time details for you, but that will be sent out shortly. In April, I'm looking at hosting a MML South Central meeting. MML is divided into different sections for the state of Missouri. We are part of the South Central, and they do monthly meetings around the state, and they've asked us to sponsor or host a location. So more details on that. Something if you're interested in going. We haven't really nailed down a topic because they're also asking us to help with topics. So if there is something that you want that would be interested in, feel free to let me know that too. But that'll be in April. That'd be nice. We've never hosted, but all the cities and members in the South Central region, which is from us pretty much all the way down, will come and be able to view our city hall and come to Osage Beach. So that's to be determined in April. Another email that I had sent you today when at my MML board meeting. MML is starting a new mentor-mentee program for the elected officials, which I think is very important because a lot of our associations already have those type of mentor-mentee programs. So I sent an application, whether you're newly elected and want to be part of the mentee, or if you meet the criteria and have been on the board for a while and would like to be a mentor. Either way, they are looking for our state elected officials to join in that program. So that is really all the update I have. Hopefully we all that are here slide home safely.
All right, thank you, City Attorney.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
City Clerk.
No, I have nothing.
Chief.
Just remind everybody, Cops on Top is tomorrow from 6 to 6 at Hvac Gas.
Glad it wasn't tonight.
You know, I'm glad it wasn't today. Jeff City's doing theirs on top of Capitol Plaza today, so they had the sleet and snow. And then next weekend is the plunge. Next Friday starts the super plunge. Myself, Lieutenant O'Day is doing that. Then we have the strut and the regular plunge, the Pee Wee plunge, and the chili cook-off and silent auction at PB2 on Saturday. All that starts at 10 o'clock. So.
Yeah, and you know, if you all haven't had a chance to participate or be a part of that, it's always a lot of fun. I mean, I know Richard, one time when I wasn't able to judge, stood in, and I appreciate that very much. But it really kind of is a really great affair, and it's fun to watch the participants and how actively they get involved in that. I'm glad it's not this weekend, and we're going to have some 60-degree days, so maybe we can add a few more degrees to the water that you guys have to go into. So thanks, Chief. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Mr. White.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate and encourage anyone who has questions, whether it be about water heater, HVAC replacement permits, or any permits or inspection questions, please do feel free to call me. Leave a message if I don't answer. Sometimes I'm on the phone, away from my desk, or send me an email. And I do ask that you have patience, like Alderman Rucker alluded to. I will get folks that have multiple questions, and I try to answer those as thoroughly as possible. But I will respond if it seems like it's going on too long. Send me a reminder, and I'll see what I can do to scoot you to the top of the list. But thank you all for your patience during this.
All right, thank you very much. Well, our business for this evening is complete, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for being here. Have a good evening. Stay warm.
Be careful at Green Blaze Bridge.
Good night.
Good night.
Definitely.
Night.